Hey everyone, it's George from the Race Space podcast, and today I have Simon Pepper. On this particular episode, I did want to find out how did he get into obstacle course race, because I do feel that Simon does represent the brand of Spartan and the obstacle course race, and I do feel that he does represent United Arab Emirates to other parts of the world so far as obstacle course race is concerned. In this episode, he did share how he got into the fitness industry. He shared his very first experience in obstacle course race. Now, we did share some really interesting stories. And the most inspiring thing is, just after 6 years from doing his very first obstacle course race, tomorrow, that is the 2nd of December, Simon is conducting the Obstacle Specialist Workshop in Abu Dhabi. Now listen guys, if you're into obstacle course race and are attending the Al Wadba event, I definitely think you need to book this event, because the Spartan Obstacle Specialist is all about the obstacles, and in the one-day hands-on class, you will learn the techniques needed to dominate the Spartan race. You will uncover and learn how to overcome the often subtle weakness that cause big time limitation on the course. So all the registration details for the Obstacle Specialist Workshop is in the show notes below. Alternatively, you can also follow Simon Pepper on his Instagram profile, and the registration link is in the bio. Now, in this particular episode, we did discuss Simon Pepper's experience doing obstacle course race all across Europe. He has also done the 24-hour Ultra event in Sweden. Now, most likely in the near future, I would definitely like to have him on this podcast and try to dissect and get more information and get his experience on doing obstacle course race in other parts of the world. And he also shared his experience doing the World Championship last year in the land of Gazelle in Abu Dhabi. And this year, the World Championship takes place a few days from now. And Simon did give some really sound advice on what to expect for this year's World Championship event. And in this episode, we also discussed about his daughter who won the World Championship in the age group category and how that is one of the proudest moments for him. We also discussed how doing a couple of hybrid events such as Hyrox and Deca helps you in becoming a better obstacle course race athlete. And towards the end of the episode, we also discussed the potential timeline of when the pro athletes will finish the super event, that is the 10K World Championship event. And towards the end, he also shared his choice of music and the potential of England bringing it home. So guys, listen to this episode. If you do have any feedback or suggestions, mention them in the comments below. And all of the contact details for Simon are in the show notes below. Now, before we kickstart this episode, I have an important message from Spartan. So check this out. Spartan is a global fitness brand with a 10 million strong community. We create transformational events, experiences, products and content to help people, companies and teams tear down boundaries and expand what they believe to be possible. From day one, nearly 2 decades ago, we've been champions of human transformation. We live to help people get outside, eat healthy, and develop habits that lead to a life of constant progress. With a family of brands, we push people from every corner of the globe outside their comfort zones and immerse them in a world of tough fitness and elite sports. We do this because when you can face and overcome adversity head-on, your potential is limitless. This year in December, in Abu Dhabi, the land of the Gazelle, thousands of athletes and spectators will gather at the metropolis in the desert to compete for Spartan immortality. This is a unique opportunity to watch the world's best obstacle course race athletes compete for the World Championship and have your group conquer the course themselves. For Spartan World Championship ticket details and registration to the program, see the link below. And there is also a discount code, so see the show notes below for the discount code and the registration link, and hopefully see you at Al Wadba. Now let's kickstart today's episode. Firstly, Simon, thank you so very much for doing this. Really appreciate you taking your time, because we're just few days away for the World Championship taking place in the land of Gazelle, that is Abu Dhabi in Al Wadba. So really appreciate you talking to me and sharing your experience, expertise and knowledge in the fitness industry and in the obstacle course race community as well. Now, what a listener should know is that Simon Pepper is the brand ambassador for quite a lot of brands, including Under Armour in the Middle East, Naked Running, VJ Shoes, and he's also part of the MyZone team, which is a wearable fitness tracker. And he's also a cyborg for Ultra Human, a wearable continuous glucose monitor. Now look guys, follow him on Instagram, and all of the discount codes are on Instagram. Alternatively, look at the show notes below where you'll get discounts and try to help support the athletes. Now in the past, Simon has also been the brand ambassador for Dubai Fitness Challenge. Now what I feel, Simon, over the course of time, you're kind of the face representing UAE to other parts of the world. I thought you were a great ambassador for the sport, and I thought it'd be cool to get your experience and insights in obstacle course race, particularly with the World Championship taking place in the land of Gazelle in Abu Dhabi in the next few days. So before we start off, I just wanted to check, how has your day been so far?
So obviously the last few days have been a lot quieter than normal. Tapering, bringing the intensity back from my workouts a little bit. Obviously the last few weeks have been a lot of, oh my God, I didn't do this. Oh my God, I didn't do that. I better start practicing this again. I better start practicing that. But yeah, I think I'm ready, I think.
And last year, your daughter Charlotte, I think she was the age group world champion as well, right?
Yeah, she was the 14 to 17 world champion. Probably the one of, she makes me proud every single day. But
Absolutely.
It was definitely one of my prouder dad moments.
Absolutely. And later on the podcast, I do want to ask about one of the Instagram posts that he posted about, kind of handing the torch. So we can definitely get into that as well. Yeah. Before we get into that, Simon, can you tell the listeners a bit about yourself? As in, how did you get into the fitness industry? And what is it that made you inclined towards obstacle course race as such?
So 11, just over 11 years. I don't know how political and raw and open you want to be, but just over 11 years ago, I quit drinking because I basically had a drinking problem, and decided to swap bottles of vodka for bottles of water, I guess.
Oh.
And then about 2 years after that, I moved to the UAE. So about nearly 9 years now I've been here. And just picked up the fitness bug. It all started in the community I was living in. I would do a bit of training while I was still looking for a gym, and then a few people asked if they could join me, and then I started running community boot camps in where I live, and they were still going on until recently, until my PTs took over when I didn't have time to run my boot camp anymore. My first obstacle type race was actually about a month before moving out here. It was a mud run in the northeast of England, which was absolutely freezing cold. But my first one here was at the Yas Marina circuit, and it was the Men's Health Urban Athlon, which was a terrible obstacle course race.
So the first one was in Northeast, because mine was in Northwest, which was in Manchester.
Ah, okay.
This is going back to 2014 where I did my Tough Mudder. So what was the experience, doing your first obstacle course race in Abu Dhabi?
So my first one at Yas Marina circuit, yeah, like I say, it wasn't very taxing on the obstacles. My first Spartan race was February 2016 in Jebel Ali Racecourse in Dubai. Yeah. Obviously there, I was introduced a little bit more to running in sand. It wasn't mad dunes, but it was still running in sand. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never heard of Spartan before. And I remember crossing the finish line and saying I would never ever do a Spartan race ever again. And 76 races later, I'm still here.
76, that absolutely massive.
I think it's 76 or 75.
Oh man! So hopefully by 2023, and most likely by the looks of it in the first quarter, you might most likely touch the 100th races.
I don't know. I think with this weekend and next week, it must be 73 now, and then 3 races this weekend, 76, and then 3 races in Muscat, 79. Yeah. So I'll be going into 2023, 21 short.
And probably in January, I'm not sure if the dates are announced. Yes, there might be another trifecta coming up as well.
Yeah, we're hoping the name Corfacan has been banded around. So yeah, we're all looking forward to that. And I've not heard if it's a trifecta, but that would be amazing.
And hopefully by January, February, the weather is going to be relatively colder as well, as much as doing it, let's say, in May or June or July and August. The next question, Simon, is kind of like a follow-up question. Now, you have done Spartan race not just in UAE, but in other parts of the world, that is in Europe. What has your experience been like doing obstacle course race in other parts of the world? Because I did listen to your interview, I believe it was with the media out or something, I'm not sure, I'm trying to recollect. where you and your daughter were at that podcast as well, and you were sharing your thoughts and opinions about doing an obstacle course race in Europe and how it is different to, let's say, UAE. What are your thoughts on that?
So obviously in Europe, there's a lot of, depending where we are, there's a lot of mountains, rolling hills. The temperature is different. I think one of the benefits of trying to train even through the summer here in the UAE gives you an added benefit when you travel somewhere a lot colder. Because for me, anyway, I don't know about a lot of other people, but being able to run in the summer when it's 50 plus degrees here makes me so comfortable running anywhere in any other temperature, be it minus degrees or 10 degrees. The geographical difference in the countries, the greenery, the trees, different terrain, whether it's rocky, whether it's snow in Sweden and ice in Sweden and snow in France. And I think that's the love of the sport, is to be able to go to all these different countries and different terrains. Like England, the European Championships this year was England, the year before it was Verbia, and they're completely two contrasting environments. Verbia was so mountainous and beautiful, and England was very undulating, which for me is a lot more tiring. At least I know when I'm going uphill, I'm going uphill. When I'm undulating, the legs are just not knowing what's going to come next.
Correct. Well, one of our thoughts is, to have maybe the World Championship or maybe the European Championship in Peak District or something. I think that'll be an absolutely beautiful place to do that.
Oh, 100%, 100%. There's so many places in the world. For European Championships, there's so many beautiful places in Europe. Obviously, next year it's going to be Andorra.
Yeah.
World Championships, there's so many top spots. The Ultra World Championships, again, so many beautiful places it can be.
Yeah, and I was just speaking to Garfield, a few days ago rather, and he was saying that one of the locations which Spartan is planning, hopefully by 2023, is in Jamaica or Cuba.
Yeah, I did read that one.
That'll be quite an interesting venue as well, right?
So I've been to, he mentioned the Bahamas as well. I've been to the Bahamas, quite flat. Jamaica, on the other hand, I've heard has a bit of altitude, a bit of elevation, so it could be a good race. And again, it's somewhere different, right?
Absolutely correct. And based on your experience, Simon, what is the most unique obstacle course race event that you have done which has stood out for you completely from other races as such?
So it depends on how you define unique. So in terms of, let's take Liwa last year.
Yeah.
From a lot of outsiders, Liwa got, it was too hard, it was too difficult, it killed me, it did this, it did that, it was so hard. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The 24-hour Ultra Championships I did in Sweden, through the night, which was 20 hours of the day, winter in Sweden, it was mostly dark. Again, unique, absolutely unique. Middle Eastern Championships in Hatta, 2017 or 18? 2017?
17, I think so.
Again, another unique race. I think, you know what? I think a lot of them are unique. Valmorel running in the ice and the snow is unique.
Yeah.
Salala running along the beach. Spear throwing out to sea, again, unique. Very unique.
Yeah, and you mentioned about 2017 because I remember you doing that particular race. And I'm not sure you were doing the second lap, I believe, as well, right?
Hatta was the Middle Eastern Championships where it was the...
Sharjah, I think, so Malaysia.
Oh no, Malaysia I've done. Yeah, I did in Malaysia. But the Middle Eastern Championships, the first one was in Hatta when we were told the course was 22 kilometers and it was in fact 30.
30 kilometers. That's correct, yeah.
Which killed a lot of us, actually. I think it's still the only race I've been unable to jump the fire because I was so cramped.
And one thing which I wanted to ask, you just mentioned about Lever. What was the key highlight moments that stood out for you for the Lever World Championship? Because apart from the camping, because camping was an absolute nightmare over there, especially for international athletes, pro athletes.
I think it was just the actual brutal course and the enormity of them dunes. I remember when Spartan released the photo, and I think it's the Morib dune with the spear throw at the bottom of it, and it just looked tiny. It was like a toy.
Absolutely.
And then, having been to the Morib dune, I realised how enormous this race was going to be.
Yep.
And I think the other uniqueness, not to take it away from anybody, and I'm normally a very humble person, was how well I did in that race. I was so pleased with how I did in that race, because it was horrible, but
it was
I loved
absolutely
it.
brutal. So most likely this year you definitely will be much better than the last year as well. I'm hoping that at least.
You know what? I think after all the press and media that Liwa got, for good, as well as the usual, there's always the people who are going to moan and whinge about it. But I think there's lessons learned, and I think the biggest lesson learned for that race, for that World Championships, was the fact that so many people didn't wear gaiters or know what gaiters were, or didn't underestimated how bad the sand was actually going to be.
Yep.
So I think a lot of people have prepared. If I could sell gaiters in the last 2 weeks, I would have been a millionaire. So yeah, I think gaiters is going to be a massive game changer. So I believe a lot of people who maybe didn't do too well last year in the dunes because of removing shoes, removing sand, struggling with blisters, if they're well prepared, they're going to do really well.
And even John Alban, he mentioned something about the shoes, that having a too deep lugs, that did not help either. So having a relatively shorter lugs would have probably helped. Does that make any sense as well? Or?
I've always been taught by a great coach. I don't know if he will ever listen to this. Lee Harris from Dubai. That a lot of it is the technique in running in dunes. Instead of trying to take these big long strides and bending those quads, it's always shorter, smaller steps and trying to engage the glutes.
Yep.
Try and force that foot flat on the sand so you're not putting them toes in. And again, sometimes it's just how you're feeling on the day, right? Again, in Liwa, I was feeling really good.
Yeah. And one thing which I think particularly stood out for you and for your daughter is her winning the age group category. What was that moment for you like?
When she crossed the line, or when she was on the podium?
Both, I would say both. Let's start off with when she crossed the line. With the tears in your eyes, or?
When she crossed the line, obviously her mother was there, her younger brother was there, who gave her a medal. I was there, and I think the first thing was having, at the time she was 17, having her run through 21 kilometers of desert pretty much by herself. I think there was just a massive sense of relief that she came back. I obviously knew she had it in her. It's just a parent's worry, right? That she's out there. I know obviously Spartan staff are everywhere, but yeah, the fact that she finished, she crossed the line, was so much relief. And then on the podium, it was unbelievable. She makes me proud every single day, and it's just one of many amazing proud moments as a dad.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing much better when you see, your son or your daughter doing something, which is so beautiful, and it is kind of like a lifetime achievement as well, right?
Yeah. She's looking at unis at the moment, looking for maybe sports scholarships at unis, and one of the questions on the application form for scholarships was, what have you achieved in sport in your life? And
yep.
I'm thinking, well, that's a big fat one to stick on the CV right there. So
100%, yeah. And one question what I wanted to ask, and I want you to be completely honest. in December you posted that you passed the torch to your daughter. Now, I wanted to ask, was it passing of the torch, or did she actually steal it from you? That's also what the question is.
Well, depends on who you ask. I'm sure a lot of people would say she stole it a long time before Liwa. She's she's a super fit athlete. Proud to be her semi-coach, semi-father, semi-best friend,
Yep.
everything. It's quite a good package I've got with her. She's so amazing. But yeah, I had to. Maybe we're sharing the torch. We cut it in half, and we're taking half each.
That is great, because lately, Simon, what I've been seeing is that we're witnessing the second generation of athletes getting into the space. I mean, you and your daughter, if you look at Hobie Cole and his son,
Yeah.
So how does it feel, from your point of view? Because I still consider you as the OG in the obstacle course race. How does it feel to see two generation of athletes competing the obstacle course race and doing it together? How does that feel?
It's great, and no matter what, she can't attend all the races that I do because of her schoolwork, etc., and exams. But whenever we do attend a race together, we always make sure that we're able to do the open sprint together. She gets frustrated in the competitive races. I get frustrated. She's like a mini me. So yeah, it's great. And her brother, my son, he's also doing the kids races. So yeah, it's great to see.
That is absolutely.
And again, it's all about encouraging them in a good way. I don't ever want to be that pushy dad or do this, do that. And again, she's going to be at uni soon. She's got a good head on her shoulders. She'll make, I'm sure, hopefully, she'll make all the right choices. And she's going back to the UK to study. We know there's races there. I race there. So yeah, it'd be nice for her to continue it.
That is absolutely.
She will continue in the fitness world for sure. She's a very, very avid Muay Thai fighter. So if truth be known, that's her number one passion.
That is absolutely great to know that. And Abu Dhabi is often called as the fighting capital of the world, because you have the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, which is the UFC, the Fight Island. So, having some base in Abu Dhabi and doing a couple of things in the UK would definitely be great.
Yeah, she trains out of a gym that are very heavily involved in all the big fights in Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
Oh,
so she's got a good base.
And one question, which is kind of connected to obstacle course race. How does training, let's say in Muay Thai training, and I've noticed that you do Hyrox training, you've done a couple of DECA events as well. So how does doing all these training sessions along with functional fitness training, which you're actively involved in, how does that help an obstacle course race, let's say for World Championship events?
I think I'm going to say an all-rounded athlete. We have a saying in England, if I can remember it right, I'll try everything. I may not be the best at them all, but I'll have a go. A jack of all trades and a master of none. And I enjoy, but even if it's a road cycling race or a mountain bike race, but I think the fact that I'm not, many years ago when I first started Spartan racing, I was very heavily into CrossFit, and it affected my Spartan race because I would let the running take a back seat. So now there's a lot of cardio in my functional fitness training. There's still a lot of resistance training, a lot of gymnastics training. And then when I'm coming up to an event and I'm programming for people who are racing, then we increase the cardio, increase the grip strength training, and put a little bit more running into it.
And when you mentioned about the grip strength, I believe there is a session taking place tomorrow as well, right? At Al Watba.
There is 1 till 3. Follow the link in my bio. No plug intended, but yes, there is a course. The Spartan Obstacle Specialist. We're calling it a workshop because it's slightly shorter than the full obstacle specialist course that normally takes place. You will get a sneak peek at the course. You will get to play on the obstacles, and like I say, I think registration is still open, and all are welcome.
Absolutely. What I'll do is, I'll definitely mention that link in the show notes below. And one thing, Simon, which I wanted to ask is, what is it that UAE or the MENA region can do to produce world-class athletes like the greatest of all time, Ryan Atkins and Lindsay Webster or John Halbin or Hobie Cole? What is it that the UAE can do in order to, produce some of these athletes? Because even if you look at hybrid events, things like Hyrox is just slowly picking up over here. You also have the Deca events, which quite often take place. So, based on your experience and interacting with some of the pro athletes, what is it that UAE can do to, produce some world-class athletes, even things like Ryan Kent or Rich Ryan, who's been smashing Hyrox and Deca events? What are your thoughts or recommendations for generally the people in UAE?
So we already have some UAE-based and UAE-born athletes who are, as I would say, are world-class. You had at least 3 UAE athletes podium in the European Championships, whether it be in the Beast or the Super or the Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few UAE-based expats who are both good Spartan Elite racers and Hyrox competitors. I think it's not how we produce the athletes. You can produce an athlete no matter where you are in the world. I think what, unfortunately, the UAE lacks is, like we'd say in football, we need game time.
Yep.
We need competitions. We need events. We need races. Some of us are fortunate enough, and some of us are less fortunate enough, and can't travel here, there, and everywhere. So the ones who are here, we want to race here. We don't want to see Europe having Hyrox, Deca, Spartan races every weekend, and we're having nothing. So yeah, I think we need game time. We need more and more events here, and we need the people who are running the events. And this is no disrespect to anybody running an event, because I know you all, and you all know me. There needs to be a bit less false promises. We know, or I know these guys. Sometimes it's a struggle. There's red tape, there's bureaucracy, there's politics, there's this and this. But more needs to be done. More needs to be done to encourage the races in the region.
Totally agree. I mean, I think the more events that we have over here would be better, because I know of George Crew, and he's been traveling other places for Hyrox events. And George Crew also is part of, this podcast that we have right now. So he's also quite keen, and I totally agree with what you're saying. The more events that we have over here definitely saves a lot with the travel time, and people can go out and start doing these events. And one thing I take on board is over promise, under delivery.
Yeah.
That is something which race directors definitely should take.
I think another issue we face, and we can't do anything about it, it's just the region where we are, is our season outside is so short. No sooner has that thermometer dropped below 30, then 5-6 months later it's above 30 again, and we struggle. However, the hybrid racing, the Deca, the Hyrox, and even this new Spartan foundation of relay racing can all be done inside. We have the biggest indoor domes I've ever seen. There's at least 3 right now I can think of in Abu Dhabi. Dubai has the World Trade Center. We have the National Exhibition Center. All of these areas, all of these places can be utilized, and a lot of the time there's nothing going on in them.
I know one of the plans is for to have the Deca Fit trifecta at the Coca-Cola Arena, but I'm not sure when that thing would happen, because that is an indoor event as well, and from a travel's point of view, it is relatively easier to travel and get to that location as well.
Yeah, 100%. So, Deca, I cannot say, because I'm not too sure who's listening. I don't know what the future is with Deca. The last rumours, shall we say, that we obviously, none of us listen to rumours. The rumour was there's no Deca in the UAE this season.
Oh.
So yeah,
So
again,
yeah,
not too sure, but it's an event that needs to be there. We have a lot of, like George, for example, his spirit level team putting on their events. Amazing, great. We need more gyms like that. If any gyms are listening, we need more events in the summer.
100%.
Use your boxes, use your gyms, use the indoor spaces. Charge people. We'll come. We will come and do your events.
That is absolutely spot on, India. And the more events that you have, and I think people get inspired by looking at other athletes perform as well. So definitely excellent point. Now, one question what I wanted to ask is kind of twofold. What is your expected timeline, for Al Watba, and what is your expectation for the elite male and female athletes at Al Watba?
My expected time. Liwa was 3 hours 40. Waspa, I don't know. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I would like to say under 3. Let's be super generous.
That's for the beach, right? What about the super, Simon?
But a super, oh my god.
Let's get it under 1 hour.
I haven't had confirmation he's coming, which I should have done. But after watching Richard Hynek in Salalah, I would say sub 115.
Oh, that's pretty good as well.
The likes of him and Sergey, who have experience in the Middle East, and I guess Ryan Atkins, he trains in snow. Snow is like sand.
Yep.
He was here last year. He knows what to expect. I would say you're looking at sub 115.
What about VJ Jones? I think VJ Jones is going to be here as well. So.
Yeah, I was speaking to Rylan Shadeg today. He fit guy. So again, he could be on the. He'll definitely be up there. Sub 115. VJ, I'm not too sure how he's been training, but again, just his overall fitness and his experience at Spartan and OCR.
Yep.
It's going to be a good battle.
But what about the female athletes? Because we just interviewed Annie DeBay a few hours ago.
So, personally, I met Lindsay and Ryan last year. They sent me a personalised birthday message for me a few months ago, so I cannot go with anybody else but Lindsay.
I mean, she's definitely the GOAT, and so is Ryan
100%.
As well.
100%, yeah.
And even, when you speak to them, there is a different aura of, it reminds me of Sachin Tendulkar. I'm not sure if you know the cricket.
Yeah.
The way they communicate, they're at an absolutely completely different level. And now, one final question what I wanted to ask is, what advice, would you like to give to international athletes who are traveling, let's say, from Europe, from US and other parts of the world for this year's Al Watba event? What preparation they need to keep in mind in terms of...
Well, preparation should have already been done by now because we're only a couple of days out, but I would say expect the unexpected. We know what Garfield was able to achieve last year with minimal equipment and minimal obstacles. A very brutal course. So, and with Steve out there with him, I would say, expect the unexpected. And I don't look at the map too much because it makes me nervous. But I think the gauntlet that is near the finish line is going to be something like the Trifecta World Championship, multi-rig and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's expect the unexpected.
That is absolutely brilliant advice. And Simon, one question which I wanted to ask, and after that I just have 2 other questions. If you were to go back in time, and if there is one piece of advice you'd like to give to your younger self, what would it be?
Run in sand earlier in your life. From a fitness point of view, I would say never pick up a packet of cigarettes And yes, definitely start running in sand when you're younger.
Absolutely excellent. And what genre of music you're into?
Ooh. So normally I'm 46, near enough in the 50 club. Yeah. I am into house music, dance music, Britpop, the Oasis and stuff like that. My genre of music is very varying. I can sit in the car and listen to classic FM and then flick it over to 97.8 dance FM. It's very varied. However, I think the only Afrobeat and country music is my no-goes.
And what I wanted to find out is, your predictions for FIFA World Cup. Is it coming home?
You know what? We sing it every time. We've been singing it for years, and I would like to say yes, but if we beat Senegal on Sunday, it's looking very likely we will play a French team who are, apart from last night, who are looking very sharp. So yeah. I would say, unfortunately, the women brought it home. I don't think the men will be bringing it back either.
Well, let's at least try to be a bit positive and hope.
Yeah, I want to be. Obviously, as an England, I'm a die-hard England fan. I love them to bits, but I would love to see it come home. I just don't think it's going to
happen. That is absolutely excellent. And now, where can listeners get in touch with you, Simon? I mean, what's the best way?
On Instagram, I guess, the most well-used social media platform. I am at Simon Pepper Fitness.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm there. Say hello on Saturday and Sunday in Wapa. If
Sounds
you
perfect.
See me. Obviously, I'm very inconspicuous by my looks.
No, in fact, I wanted to have this podcast with you way back in 2017. And I think I might have mentioned this as well. That
you did.
Yeah, with OCR Freaks, George Crew, and I wanted, a couple of guys from the heavy metal industry, a couple of guys from the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency industry, and hopefully we'll try to do that someday in the near future as well. And for our listeners, I think you should know that Simon Pepper is, if not one of the most approachable, nicest, and the most humble people that you can meet, especially in the Obsidian Coast Race community. And I definitely do thank you.
Even if I don't look like I'm approachable, I'm very approachable.
No, you definitely look approachable. More of the Viking kind of look as well. Perfect. What I'll do is, Simon, in the show notes below, I'll go ahead and mention each and every of your contact details as well.
Okay.
And definitely wish you all the best and wish your daughter Charlotte Pepper all the best as well. And
thank you so much. See you in our Wapa.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much, Simon, for doing this. Appreciate it a lot.
No worries, man. Anytime.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.